Hey guys, Master Key's back with some Borderlands 2 for you today, of course, and I promised I would try and put together a bit of a Texmod guide. So we'll start off with a basic introduction to what Texmod is and what it can do. Basically, Texmod is a program that will allow you to import and load custom textures for various aspects of Borderlands 2 and many other games, I should say. Texmod's been around for a long time. I actually first started messing with it back in the day when I think it was Tomb Raider Anniversary, I think was the first game I started doing custom textures for. And I've recently started messing around with Borderlands 2, and it's quite fun. There's a lot you can do. There are some limitations. We'll try and cover those, but we'll get into this episode, which is going to be the introductory. So what is Texmod and what does it do? You probably see here I've got some weapons. I've got an Unkept Harold there. I've got a Flying Sandhawk. I've got a Norfleet. And I've got the Grog Nozzle. Grog Nozzle's not changed, actually, so that's neither here nor there. But if you look at this Unkempt Harold, you'll see it's a nice, shiny gold colour. And it's got some details there that are still the standard sort of metal colour, just to break it up a bit. You can actually make it completely solid gold, but it looks a little bit weird. But that is a custom texture. That is actually one of the most simple custom textures you can do for the Harold. There's also the Sandhawk here. That's a completely custom Sandhawk. I actually did that for somebody on Twitter. They wanted to see a rainbow-coloured Sandhawk, and I have absolutely fallen in love with it. It looks so random. It looks so weird in the game, but that's a rainbow hexagon Sandhawk with a custom Hello Kitty logo on it as well. So these are the things you can do with Texmod. You can basically pull textures out, change them, and then put them back in. That is a custom Norfleet as well, so that one's been changed to like a real crimson red that fades all the way to grey. And it's also, it might be hard to see in the video, but it's got a hexagon texture over it as well. It gives it this nice sort of hexagon grid for a little bit of extra detail. But so Texmod, what it does is it actually forces the game to load textures rather than the default ones. And the cool thing about that is it doesn't actually modify any of the game files. So it doesn't change the textures in the game directory. It doesn't modify anything. All it does is it tricks the game and says, instead of loading this texture, please load this custom texture. So there's really no worry about corrupting your game install, because it doesn't change any of the files, which is the coolest thing with it. So what we're going to do today is we'll cover the Norfleet first, because I think the Norfleet will be a good one to explain some of the custom things that we can do, some of the limitations, and once we finish the Norfleet, we may go a little bit deeper, and then I can explain some more technical aspects about modifying textures. But we'll start with the Norfleet. So what I'll do now is I'll drop back to Windows, and I'll start explaining sort of how to use Texmod, how we're going to load it up, and how we're going to actually find these files that make up this Norfleet. So we'll be back in a second. Alright, here we are back in Windows, and we are in my Texmod folder. This is the folder where I actually store all of my custom textures. So we've got Texmod here. I'll just close it actually so I can explain it. So you launch Texmod. There'll be links in the description, of course, where you can download it. We've got Texmod open here. Now, of course, Texmod, like I said earlier, works with multiple games, but what we want to do is we want to add Borderlands 2 to it. Click this. Generally, what you'd need to do is you'd need to browse and find your Borderlands 2 executable. You can see there where mine's located. If you have it on Steam, of course, that's where yours is probably going to be located as well. So we click that. Now, Texmod's in Borderlands 2 mode, so it's ready to actually change the textures in Borderlands 2. We've got Package Mode. Package Mode is the mode that lets you import and run custom textures. We won't be using that right now. Package Build is what you do when you actually want to build your custom textures into a file that Texmod can load. We're not going to do that right now. Logging mode is what we need to do initially. Logging mode is what you want to do if you want to dump and capture your custom textures. So we've got all the options checked here that we want to have checked. Your only preference, I suppose, when you do it is, the only thing I usually have turned off is show texture in upper left corner. Once you understand how the program works, you don't really need to see the texture, especially when you have this one enabled. You'll be able to just visually see what texture is loaded because it will turn green, which is a very cool feature. And of course, usually when I do this, I dump the textures as DDS files. That's a more advanced format that I suppose, if there's enough interest, I'll cover in another video. But today what we're going to do is we're just going to dump as PNGs, which is a more basic file, and it will mean that a lot more people can edit it. If you use DDS, you pretty much will need a copy of Photoshop or something as powerful. You'll also need some NVIDIA plugins to actually edit those particular files. So a little bit more advanced, but I can cover it if there's interest there. So for argument's sake, we're going to use PNG. So we're ready to go now, actually. If we hit run, what this will do is this will launch Borderlands 2 for us with Texmod hooked into the game's code, and it will actually give us access to the textures on screen, so we'll be able to see them. You can see there's text up in the top left already, which means that it is running and it is ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're just going to load into an area where I can load up the Norfleet, and we're going to look for the textures on the Norfleet. So that's what we're going to be modifying today. So we'll go continue, launch. You can actually dump textures from the menu screen there as well because it is 3D. Okay, so here we are, wherever we are. And what we're going to do now is we're going to try and find some textures. You'll see if we're on the keyboard, you'll need a keyboard that has the 10 keys, so a numpad, and with your plus and your minus keys, if you hit them, you'll see it starts loading textures. And you'll see that textures loaded. We currently have 3,300 plus textures loaded. Lots of textures, and you'll see that the one in the distance there that goes green, that's that texture. So that's how you identify textures. When they go green, you see there's one up in the distance there that went green. The pillars or the pylons on top of the building, they're green. They're the textures for those elements. So if you wanted to change those on top of there, I don't know why, but you could. You could make them pink, you could turn them into candy canes. All you do is dump that texture and edit it. So that's basically how it works. Now, a very cool feature is this is instead of going through all 3,000 textures, what you can do is you can push the asterisk key, and what that will do is that will cull any textures that aren't visualized on the screen right now. And what that means is any textures that are behind me, any textures that I can't see in my current frame in the window aren't loaded, which means that it's so much easier to find textures. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch to the Norfleet because this is what we want to do. We're going to hit star a couple of times, and what that, or star I should say, asterisk right next to the minus key on your numpad. And what that, like I said, it cuts out all the textures we can't see, which makes finding textures much faster. So we're just going to hit plus on this keypad until the Norfleet changes color. So you can see there actually the, if you can see in the scope on the Norfleet, you can actually edit how they look if you want to. It is a little bit sort of redundant to edit it. That's the entire menu structure of Borderlands if you wanted to change everything. So you can see all the elements there. You can make your own custom icons. You can change the colors of them. You can edit basically anything you can see, as long as it's not a rendered effect. If it's just a 2D image, you can edit it, which is very, very cool. So we're going to keep going until we see our Norfleet. That's one of the ones we need there. So you'll see on the Norfleet, it has the detailed texture, like the little bumps. That's it there. So those little bumps are that particular texture. So what we want to do is we want that texture. We want to edit it. We want to hit F11. What that's going to do is that's going to create a PNG file in that folder we were just in of that particular image, and then we can edit that and it'll change the way that looks. So instead of having bumps, we can change it into something else. Now what we've got to do is we've got to find the color file for the Norfleet. So that one is very easy to spot because you will just see the Norfleet completely change color. It's the reflectivity map. Where are you? You're in here somewhere. This is actually a fairly complex area. The less complex area you're in, the better it actually is, because it will load a lot less textures. In areas like this where there's a lot of elements in the scene, it can actually take a lot longer to find the texture that you want. Okay, let me just smash through it and see if I can notice it. Let's hit star again. Is that it? Oh, that's the colour. Come on, you say you're somewhere, Norfleet, I know you're here. It's the smallest texture as well. The only thing I'm looking for is just, I'm looking for the Northfleet just to change colour momentarily, which will mean that that's the texture that we want. Oh, there it is, alright. So it took a while to find it, but it's there. See, the Northfleet has completely changed colour now. That's because it's demonstrating that the texture on the top left, that's the Northfleet colour overlay. So we want to edit that colour. So we want to hit F11, and that will dump that texture. So now what we have is we have two local files. We have the detail texture, which is the little round lumps on the Northfleet, and we have the colour texture of the Northfleet dumped locally. So now what we're going to do is we're going to quit out of the game. Shredify, nice. Quit out of the game. And you'll see we have these files created now. So this one, they're the bumps on the Northfleet. So that's the detail texture. And this, believe it or not, is the color overlay for the Northfleet. Many things in the game just use a very, very small texture to actually have a color overlay, and the game just expands them. So it makes loading color overlays much faster because they are so small, and it doesn't take up much memory on your graphics card. So very, very cool, but also very, very easy to edit. So you can see that you've got a little orange blip here, a dark blip, a light sort of gray, another dark blip, orange to a dark blip. So this is the front of the Northfleet. Just this orange part is the front of the Northfleet, and this is the back of the Northfleet here. This is your white in the middle. So for people that are very familiar with the Northfleet, they can probably see that line and go, that's a Northfleet. But anyway, we're going to load that into Photoshop, and we're going to edit it. So here we are in Photoshop. You can see it's very small. I think it's 256 by 4. Very, very small image. So we can just expand it a bit to make it a little bit easier to edit. Now we'll just do something very, very basic. What we'll do is we'll go pink. We'll just go shape, and we'll just go straight over it pink. So if we were to load that now, the whole Northfleet would be bright pink. The whole thing would be bright pink. So we'll do this, and we'll just do like a mid-grey, and we'll do a couple of lines in the middle here just to show you that these lines will actually load up on it. Do a thicker one there. There we go. So there we are. That's all there is to it. So that is now a custom Northfleet skin. It may not look like it, but trust me, it is. So now if we go File, Save, and in this folder, so that's it there. So you can see that's edited. That's our custom Northfleet color skin right there. This one, if we go open with Photoshop like this, you'll see what we have is just this little raised circle. So that's your detail texture on the Northfleet. It's just a little raised lump like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert this to a layer. We are going to get this particular grey color, because the grey color for this particular material is defined as transparent. So that grey color now, so in the game, this particular grey color is transparent. So any other color that we put on top of this will show through. So we're going to just put some guides in to make sure we're centered, like so. And what we might do is we'll just load up some sort of custom shape. Let's go layer, new layer, okay. And we will just make it in like red so it stands out initially. And what sort of shape have we got here? What can we do? Can we do maybe some yin and yangs? We've got some sexy ladies. You really want to find a texture that will tile well for this one. So this is a tiled texture, so you want to do something that looks fairly easy. So we might do a heart if we can, because the Northfleet is pink. So we'll just make this out like this. See if we can get it centered as good as we can. It's a little bit off, but that shouldn't be too bad. Now if we go layer style, we'll go color overlay. So we will need to get it so it is just a bit darker than this, like this. We'll go bevel and emboss. So that should stand out like a bit of a love heart now, like that. So we'll go okay. Now what we've got to do is go layer, flatten image. Now it's back to a flat image. File, save, And there we go. Of course, if you're using something like MS Paint or something like that, you can't do the advanced editing with the layers and things that I'm doing in Photoshop, but you still could just do basic editing if you wanted to draw a simple picture, or even copy and paste a picture in there. That will work just as well. So now we can close these, and you can see we've got the heart, and we've got this pink and grey texture, and that is an Orfleet. Like I said, it doesn't look like it, but that's what it is. So now if we go into Texmod, okay, package build is what we want to do now. Now what you want to do is if we hit build, it's going to look for textures in this folder. It's going to use this text file, and it's going to say, okay, it's going to combine these textures, and then it's going to make a file, which we can then load into the game. So we hit build. Okay, it's going to ask us what do we want to call it. So we'll call it the pink, or P&K Pink Fleet. There we go, Pink Fleet. Save. Okay, so that's done. So now what we have is we have a custom package built that we can actually load into the game, and all it will do will change the Norfleet, because that's the only custom one we've made. So if we go package mode, Pink Fleet, that's the one we just made. Click it. Okay, so package mode, Pink Fleet, that's the one we just created. If we hit run, what that does now is that loads Borderlands, but as it loads, it tells Borderlands, don't use the default Norfleet texture, use the custom Norfleet texture. So the default texture is still there, still safe, unmodified. If you want to go back to the normal game, just don't run Texmod, simple as that. Doesn't alter any files, doesn't damage files. Very, very clean, very, very simple. So now what we do is we hit continue, launch, and we want to see if this works, because if it didn't work, I'm going to look pretty stupid, but I'm pretty confident that it works, because I've been doing it for a while now. So we'll swap, and booyaka, we have that is incredibly pink. I've never used that colour before. So we have a very, very, very pink custom Norfleet. So wow, it's covered in love hearts. All right, let's just load it up. Let's inspect this lad. So there we. Oh man, that could better than I imagined. That could be the next Miss Moxie weapon. Look how good that is. But anyway, you see how those textures that we edited work. See these little squares? They're the little blocks that we put in. That was the slightly wider block there. So you can sort of get an understanding of, if you were to put different coloured blocks in, you would get different coloured slashes on the weapon. And of course our love hearts that we did have all tiled, and they look quite special on there. Man, that could quite possibly be the best Norfleet I've made. I really like that. That might stay. But that's it. That's the most basic form of editing I think I can show you to introduce you to Texmod. There is much more you can do, but it is much more technical, much more advanced. Not sure whether people really want to see that. But again, if you wanted to apply this to other weapons, you can load up other weapons, dump their color overlay, dump whatever you can find for that particular weapon, and then just edit it, load it back into the game, see what it looks like. Always make backups before you actually do it. If you do ruin it, you can just load the game into the package dump mode, and you can actually just dump the default files again if you want clean backups. So that's not a problem. I should explain also that when you modify one file, it can in a lot of cases modify many files. So I'll demonstrate that now. If you look at this is a storm. You'll see the storm actually shares the skin from the Norfleet. So we now have a pink and blue storm. So just bear in mind that sometimes when you edit one thing, it'll edit many things. If we go down, I don't know whether I've got one. It can also edit shields, and something else it can edit. I have to go to Sanctuary quickly to show you this. The Norfleet is one of the most commonly used color overlays in the game. There are so many things that change. Man, that is so pink. It also changes the skin. So if we go into here, I think it's Maliwan Grace it changes. So you can see that we've got Maliwan Grace. So it actually changes the Maliwan Grace skin for the character as well. Character skins are something else I could get into in another tutorial. A little bit different the way they work, especially if you just want to edit skins rather than editing the base texture. But you can see there it does edit quite a few different things. But I think that's a fairly complex and much longer than I wanted to tutorial as an introduction to Texmod. But that's basically what it is. You can do it with class mods. You can do it with anything that has a texture on it. All you do, load it up into the package dump mode, look for the texture that you want to find, and as soon as you see it highlight, push F11 or whatever key you've got bound, dump it, edit it, and then load it back into the game and experiment with it. Everything I've created, I've done just through experiments. So, and you can see that was an experiment there, man. We've got these beautiful Northfleet. Oh my goodness, that is amazing. Let me get a good screenshot of that. I'll chuck that on Twitter, man. So I'll put that on Twitter for you. There we go. Anyway, guys, introductory to Texmod. Depending on how this one gets viewed and gets, I suppose, responded to by people that actually watch it, I can go deeper and explain a little bit more of the technical aspects about modifying more of the textures in particular things. But like I said, if you've got any questions, if anything wasn't clear enough, let me know in the comments. I'll try and help you out. But just load it up and experiment. Like I said, there's nothing you can damage. There's no problems with it. If you do make a texture that looks awful, share it on Twitter, because they're sometimes the best textures when you make something that looks really funny. But yeah, have some fun with it. Mess around, change your colors, import some textures, do pattern overlays, whatever you want. Start messing around. Breathe some life back into the game. I've found myself messing with textures more than actually playing the game recently, because it's just really fun. Anyway, guys, if you want to see more, if you want more in-depth tutorials about Texmod or anything like that, let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Look how pink that is, man. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and until the next video, we'll see you later.